In the realm of philosophy, great minds have long grappled with the intricate nature of sexuality, examining its origins, meanings, and implications. From ancient thinkers like Plato and Aristotle to modern theorists like Judith Butler, the discourse on sexuality has evolved, reflecting the changing dynamics of societies and cultures. This video delves deep into the musings of 20 eminent philosophers, offering a panoramic view of how human understanding of sexuality has been shaped, challenged, and redefined over millennia. Join us on this enlightening journey, exploring the myriad ways in which philosophy intersects with our most intimate desires and identities. Before we delve into the rich tapestry of philosophical thought on sexuality, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel for more insightful content. Whether you agree or disagree with the perspectives shared, we value your feedback. So, give us a thumbs up or down, and don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments below. Engaging with our content helps us bring more meaningful discussions to the forefront. Let's embark on this journey together. 1. Plato. Plato's discourse on love and desire in the Symposium is a significant exploration of the multifaceted nature of Eros. This dialogue, set within the confines of a banquet, offers an array of perspectives on love, drawing a spectrum that reaches from the most carnal to the ethereal. Starting with Aristophanes, his fantastical portrayal of humans as once being dual beings, two-faced, four-armed, and four-legged is symbolic. These beings, driven by their desire to become whole again, search for their lost halves. This vision of love focuses on a primal, instinctual urge to reunite, to find completion. The act of sex, in this narrative, is an attempt at rejoining, a remnant of an ancient desire to merge and become whole. However, as the dialogue progresses, especially through the words of Socrates, we witness a more evolved understanding. Drawing from the teachings of the mysterious priestess Diotima, Socrates presents an ascension model of love. He argues that initial physical attractions are merely the first rung of a ladder that leads one towards the sublime, culminating in the appreciation of the form of beauty itself. This spiritual ascent means beginning with a love for a single body, progressing to a love for all beautiful bodies, then to beautiful souls, laws and customs, and finally to the love of pure, abstract beauty. For Plato, physical pleasures, including sex, are fleeting, tied to the ever-changing material world. They are but shadows of the more lasting, unchanging truths of the spiritual realm. Eros, therefore, becomes a divine madness, a force that pulls one from the earthly realm upwards toward the divine. Physical love is transient, a mere reflection of the more profound, eternal spiritual love that exists in the realm of the forms. Plato's perspective is pivotal in understanding the classical view of love. It is a journey, an ascent from the corporeal to the spiritual, emphasizing that while physical attraction has its place, true love transcends the limitations of the flesh, reaching into the eternal. 2. Aristotle. Aristotle, a student of Plato and one of antiquity's most profound thinkers, approached the world with an empirical and observational mindset. His philosophy is deeply rooted in the belief that everything in nature, every being and phenomenon exists with a specific telos, or end purpose. For Aristotle, the concept of telos is fundamental. It is this inherent purpose that drives all actions and gives meaning to life. When it comes to sexuality, Aristotle views it through this teleological lens. Sexual pleasure, for him, is not merely an incidental or frivolous aspect of human existence, it has an essential role in the continuation of the species. Procreation stands as the ultimate goal or purpose of sexual activity. However, Aristotle's perspective on sexuality extends beyond the mere biological act. He saw human beings as rational animals, with unique capacities for reason and moral virtue. Thus, while sexual pleasure is natural and an integral component of human well-being, it cannot be divorced from the context of a virtuous life. Engaging in sexual activity without restraint or outside the bounds of reason could lead to excesses, which, in Aristotelian ethics, is a deviation from the golden mean, the desired midpoint between deficiency and excess. Aristotle's philosophy emphasizes balance. For him, flourishing, or eudaimonia, is achieved not by succumbing to every desire, but by living in accordance with virtue. In the realm of sexuality, this means that while sexual pleasure is acknowledged and embraced as natural, it must be approached with moderation and aligned with broader principles of virtuous living. Through this lens, Aristotle provides a holistic view of sexuality, one that recognizes its inherent biological purpose, celebrates its role in human happiness, but also underscores the necessity of integrating it within a life governed by reason and virtue. 3. Augustine. St. Augustine stands as one of the most influential figures in Christian theology, and his personal journey offers profound insights into the human condition. Born in the Roman province of Numidia, present-day Algeria, and living through a time of significant cultural and religious transition, Augustine's early life was marked by what he later described as moral tumult and hedonistic pursuits. His Confessions provide an introspective window into his inner battles, particularly with lust, showcasing a man deeply entangled with the pleasures of the flesh. However, Augustine's transformation from a Manichaean and then Neoplatonist to a Christian bishop was marked by intense introspection and spiritual awakening. His philosophical and theological musings on the nature of evil, free will, and grace led him to associate sexual desire with the original sin of Adam and Eve. In Augustine's view, the uncontrolled lust he experienced and the concupiscence of humanity, in general, were remnants of that fall from divine grace, a stark reminder of man's inherent frailty and penchant for sin. While Augustine acknowledged the divine mandate of procreation, as outlined in the book of Genesis, be fruitful and multiply, he differentiated between the act itself and the pleasure derived from it. Sex for procreation, performed within the sanctity of marriage, was a necessary concession to ensure humanity's continuity. However, he contended that the pleasure experienced, when separated from its procreative intent, becomes an avenue for sin, a manifestation of humanity's disordered will. For Augustine, then, the sexual act becomes a microcosm of the broader human struggle between the soul and the body, the divine and the earthly. His philosophical and theological considerations, influenced by his personal experiences, paint a picture of a man grappling with the inherent tensions of human existence, trying to reconcile the earthly with the spiritual, and constantly seeking redemption in the face of overwhelming temptation. 4. Thomas Aquinas. One of the most eminent theologians of the Middle Ages, Thomas Aquinas sought to harmonize the teachings of the Church with the rational inquiries of philosophy. Drawing deeply from Aristotle, Aquinas introduced a systematic approach to understanding God, nature, and humanity's place within the divine order. His extensive works, especially the Summa Theologica, remain foundational texts in Christian theology. In the vast realm of his inquiries, Aquinas devoted significant attention to human sexuality. Grounded in the Christian understanding of the human body as a temple of the Holy Spirit, he approached sexuality with a dual lens, the natural law inscribed by God in the world and the revealed law of Scriptures. From the Aristotelian perspective, he accepted the teleological notion that everything has an end or purpose. In the context of sexuality, this purpose is procreation. For Aquinas, sexual acts find their moral justification when aligned with their natural end, reproduction. Any sexual act that deliberately excludes the possibility of procreation deviates from its inherent purpose and, hence, is considered immoral in his eyes. This foundational premise leads Aquinas to uphold the sanctity of marital intercourse, as it remains the legitimate context where procreation can occur. While Aquinas didn't deny the pleasurable aspect of sexuality, he believed that pleasure was a divine gift, a bonus so to speak, accompanying the procreative act. However, he warned against making pleasure the primary goal, as this could lead to a perversion of the act's true purpose. In essence, for Aquinas, sexual pleasure was permissible and natural as long as it was within the confines of marriage and open to the possibility of procreation. In synthesizing Aristotelian philosophy with Christian doctrine, Thomas Aquinas carved a path that has shaped Catholic teachings on sexuality for centuries. His views emphasized the intricate balance between nature's design, divine intention, and human experience, reflecting a deep desire to align earthly existence with heavenly principles. 5. Immanuel Kant. Immanuel Kant, a central figure in modern philosophy, posited a moral framework built on the principles of autonomy, duty, and the intrinsic worth of individuals. His ethical considerations pivoted around the categorical imperative, a universal standard by which actions should be judged. One of its formulations states that individuals should act in such a way that they treat humanity, whether in themselves or in others, always as an end and never merely as a means. Within this moral structure, Kant's views on sexuality become intriguing. To him, sexual desire was a powerful and natural inclination, but when pursued unchecked, it had the potential to reduce individuals to mere objects, tools for the satisfaction of another's desires. Such reduction is morally problematic for Kant because it contravenes the principle of recognizing the intrinsic worth and autonomy of each individual. For Kant, sexual relations outside the framework of marriage exemplify this problem. Without the commitment and mutual respect found in marriage, where both partners recognize each other as ends in themselves, sexual acts can devolve into transactions where one person uses another solely for pleasure. This dehumanizing aspect of sexual desire, devoid of commitment, was particularly concerning to Kant. However, within the institution of marriage, Kant believed there existed a mutual exchange of rights over each other's bodies, which provided a context where sexual relations did not diminish the dignity of the parties involved. In this scenario, both partners willingly and reciprocally treat each other as ends in themselves, ensuring that their inherent worth is respected. Kant's perspective on sexuality reflects his broader ethical concerns about autonomy, respect, and the dangers of instrumentalizing individuals. His philosophy serves as a cautionary reminder of the moral dimensions of our actions and the profound responsibility we bear in our interactions with others. 6. Jean-Jacques Rousseau. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, an influential Enlightenment philosopher, championed the idea of the noble savage, the belief that humans in their most natural state are innately good and that it's society's constructs which often lead them astray. His treatise Émile, or On Education, offers a deep exploration into the ideal upbringing of a young boy, and within it, Rousseau delves into the intricacies of sexual education and relationships. Rousseau's perspective on sexuality was deeply intertwined with his broader critiques of civilization. He posited that as society became more complex, so did its conceptions of love and desire, leading to inauthentic expressions and relationships fraught with artifice. He lamented the fact that societal norms and expectations often dictated emotions and relationships, complicating what he saw as natural and straightforward impulses. In Émile, Rousseau presents a vision of sexual education that is grounded in the rhythms of nature. He believed that young people should be shielded from discussions of sexuality until they organically encounter these feelings themselves. Once these feelings arise, they should be guided with honesty, devoid of societal pretensions, allowing them to form genuine and sincere bonds. Moreover, Rousseau cautioned against the dangers of premature or misguided sexual experiences, emphasizing the importance of true love over transient passions. He advocated for relationships built on genuine affection and mutual respect, untainted by societal demands for wealth, status, or superficial attractions. For Rousseau, the ideal sexual relationship was emblematic of his broader philosophy. It should be as close to the natural state as possible, untouched by the artifices and corruptions of modern civilization. He envisioned a world where individuals would engage with each other authentically, their bonds unsullied by external pressures, and their love a true reflection of their innate goodness. In this, Rousseau presents a romantic and somewhat idealized view of love, but one deeply rooted in his overarching philosophy of nature, authenticity, and the inherent goodness of humanity. 7. Friedrich Nietzsche. Friedrich Nietzsche, with his iconoclastic ideas and fervent critiques of traditional values, ventured deep into the realms of human psychology, morality, and instinct. Sexuality, to Nietzsche, wasn't just about the physical act, but was a profound reflection of broader philosophical and existential concerns. Central to Nietzsche's philosophy is the concept of the will to power, an innate drive in all living beings to assert and expand their influence. Sexuality, in his view, was a manifestation of this drive, an arena where power dynamics play out, and where individuals assert themselves over others or are subjected to the wills of others. Nietzsche was critical of the way Christian morality approached sexuality. He saw it as an institution that negated life, one that framed human desires as inherently sinful and needing of suppression. Such a moral stance, he believed, led to an internal conflict where individuals would repress their natural instincts, causing a ressentiment or deep-seated resentment and self-hatred. This internal turmoil, in turn, could manifest in various unhealthy ways, from hypocrisy to passive-aggressive behaviors. In stark contrast to this view, Nietzsche championed a Dionysian approach to life, named after the Greek god of wine, revelry, and dance. To be Dionysian is to affirm life, with all its chaos, instincts, and desires. Embracing one's sexual nature was, for Nietzsche, a way of saying yes to life, an act of affirmation and acceptance of our primal nature. However, this wasn't a call for unrestrained hedonism. Nietzsche emphasized the importance of self-mastery and self-overcoming. While he advocated for the acceptance of our natural drives, he also believed in the ability of individuals to channel these drives creatively, elevating them to art and higher forms of expression. In essence, Nietzsche's exploration of sexuality goes beyond mere physicality. It becomes a lens through which he investigates power dynamics, critiques societal norms, and underscores the importance of authenticity, self-affirmation, and creative expression. 8. Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud, often dubbed the father of psychoanalysis, brought human sexuality to the forefront of psychological and cultural discourse. His ideas, while groundbreaking, were also contentious, challenging the societal norms of his time and forcing a reconsideration of human motivations and behavior. Central to Freud's theories was the concept of the libido, a form of sexual energy that he believed influenced a vast array of human actions, from our relationships to our careers. He postulated that our earliest experiences with this energy, occurring during childhood, shape our psychological development and have lasting impacts on our adult lives. One of Freud's most debated theories was the Oedipus complex, named after the Greek mythological figure who unknowingly kills his father and marries his mother. Freud suggested that during a specific stage of childhood development, boys experience unconscious sexual desires for their mothers and see their fathers as rivals, wishing to eliminate them. The corresponding theory for girls was the Electra complex, where daughters are drawn to their fathers and compete with their mothers. While these feelings are eventually repressed, Freud believed they left an indelible mark on an individual's psyche, influencing their future relationships and interactions. These ideas were revolutionary because they proposed that even in childhood, where sexuality was traditionally not considered, powerful and complex sexual emotions were at play. It reframed the way society looked at childhood innocence and forced a reevaluation of the complexities of human development. Furthermore, Freud's broader contributions emphasized the importance of the unconscious mind, suggesting that many of our actions, feelings, and decisions are driven by factors outside our immediate awareness, many of which are rooted in our sexual drives. While many of Freud's theories, including the Oedipus and Electra complexes, have been debated, modified, or outright rejected by subsequent psychologists, his influence is undeniable. He shifted the discourse on sexuality from the realms of morality and biology to psychology, emphasizing its centrality in understanding human behavior, development, and identity. His work laid the foundation for countless debates, studies, and new theories, ensuring his place in the annals of both psychology and the broader exploration of human sexuality. 9. Simone de Beauvoir. Simone de Beauvoir stands as a titan in the realm of existentialist philosophy and feminist thought. Her seminal work, The Second Sex, is not just an exploration of women's oppression but a profound analysis of how society constructs female identity, especially in relation to sexuality. Central to de Beauvoir's argument is her assertion that women are not born, but rather made. This means that societal norms, expectations, and structures play a pivotal role in shaping and defining what it means to be a woman. She famously declared, "One is not born, but rather becomes, a woman." Through this, de Beauvoir challenges biological determinism and emphasizes the societal constructs that influence and often limit female identity. Sexuality, in de Beauvoir's analysis, is a primary arena where these dynamics play out. She observed that society often positions women as the other in relation to men, who are seen as the default or norm. This othering process objectifies women, reducing them to their sexual and reproductive functions and thereby denying them full agency and subjectivity. Instead of being recognized as autonomous individuals with desires, aspirations, and identities of their own, women are often perceived as mere objects of male desire or as passive recipients in sexual relationships. Moreover, de Beauvoir scrutinized the societal expectations that tie women's worth to their appearance, youth, and fertility. Such notions not only limit women's understanding of their own sexuality but also confine them to roles and stereotypes that serve patriarchal structures. The second sex also delves into the historical, biological, psychoanalytic, and existential dimensions of womanhood, presenting a comprehensive critique of how society has historically perceived and treated women. Through her analysis, de Beauvoir seeks to liberate women from these constraining narratives, advocating for a recognition of women as full subjects, capable of defining their destinies, sexual or otherwise. In essence, Simone de Beauvoir's exploration of sexuality in The Second Sex is a powerful indictment of patriarchal structures. It serves as a call to action, urging society to reevaluate and deconstruct the deeply ingrained norms and beliefs that continue to subordinate and objectify women. 10. Michel Foucault. Michel Foucault, a post-structuralist philosopher and social theorist, delved deeply into the intricacies of knowledge, power, and the construction of social norms. His work on the history of sexuality was groundbreaking, not just for its content, but for the lens through which he viewed it. For Foucault, sexuality was not a timeless, unchanging essence inherent in humans, but rather a complex construct that evolved through historical, social, and political processes. His multi-volume work, The History of Sexuality, challenged traditional narratives that suggested society had moved from a period of Victorian repression to modern-day liberation. Foucault posited that what might appear as liberation was, in many cases, a new form of control and regulation. He introduced the concept of biopower, a form of power that regulates populations, which operates on both the societal and individual level. Sexuality became a key domain where this power was exercised, with institutions like the church, medicine, and the state defining what was normal and what was deviant. In this light, the confessional nature of modern sexuality, where individuals are encouraged to define, discuss, and categorize their desires, is not merely a liberating acknowledgement of truth, but a method of surveillance and control. By making sexuality a core part of individual identity and subjecting it to endless analysis and discourse, society creates specific norms and boundaries, even while appearing to be open and accepting. Foucault's exploration of sexuality also touched upon the concept of discursive formations, which are ways in which knowledge is created and organized. He argued that our current understanding of sexuality is rooted in specific discourses that have emerged over time, shaped by power dynamics and societal structures. This perspective on sexuality was revolutionary. Instead of viewing the history of sexuality as a linear progression from repression to liberation, Foucault illuminated the intricate web of power, knowledge, and discourse that shapes and defines our sexual identities and experiences. In sum, Foucault's insights into sexuality offer a profound critique of societal norms and the power structures that underpin them. He challenges us to question the very foundations of our beliefs, urging a deeper understanding of the forces that shape and define our most intimate experiences. 11. Albert Camus. Albert Camus, a luminary in the realm of existential philosophy and literature, approached human existence with a keen awareness of its inherent absurdity. For Camus, life's fundamental absurdity arises from the confrontation between our longing for meaning and the apparent indifference of the universe. Amidst this existential struggle, he saw sexuality as a profound, visceral response, a way for humans to momentarily transcend the pervasive sense of meaninglessness. In his works, particularly in novels like The Stranger and philosophical essays like The Myth of Sisyphus, Camus delves into the human quest for meaning in an indifferent world. While he rejects the idea that life has an inherent, ultimate purpose, he also denies the need for despair. Instead, he argues for a passionate embrace of life in all its rawness and intensity. Within this framework, sexuality emerges as one of the purest forms of human experience. It is an act of defiance against the void, a moment where individuals can feel intensely alive, connected, and real. In the throes of passion, the weight of existence is momentarily forgotten, replaced by a profound sense of immediacy and presence. Sexuality, for Camus, is not merely a biological act but a philosophical one. It offers a temporary reprieve from the absurdity of life, a space where individuals can reclaim their agency and feel a deep sense of communion with another. It's akin to other intense experiences that Camus celebrates, such as art or rebellion, that allow individuals to assert themselves in the face of an indifferent universe. However, it's essential to note that Camus doesn't propose sexuality, or any other experience, as a permanent solution to the problem of the absurd. Instead, these moments are temporary, fleeting glimpses of meaning in a world that often seems devoid of it. They are acts of affirmation, ways to passionately engage with life even when faced with its inherent absurdity. In essence, Camus' perspective on sexuality underscores his broader philosophy, a call to live authentically, embrace the rawness of existence, and find moments of intense passion and connection even amidst the backdrop of a universe that often appears indifferent to our yearnings. 12. Bertrand Russell. Bertrand Russell, a renowned philosopher, logician, and social critic, was not only a towering figure in the realm of academic philosophy but also a passionate advocate for societal reform in various areas, including sexuality. His perspectives on sexuality were significantly ahead of his time and brought him both admiration and notoriety. In the backdrop of a society bound by rigid Victorian norms, Russell championed a more open and understanding view of sexuality. He believed that the conventional moral standards, which sought to repress and control sexual desires, were not only unrealistic but actively harmful. Such repression, in his view, led to a host of psychological issues, from personal unhappiness to broader societal dysfunctions. Russell's book Marriage and Morals is a testament to his progressive views on sexuality and relationships. Here, he critiques the institution of marriage, the double standards surrounding male and female sexuality, and the societal norms that dictate acceptable sexual behavior. He argued for sexual education, the decriminalization of homosexuality, and the importance of mutual respect and consent in intimate relationships. At the heart of Russell's argument was the belief that sexuality, when approached with understanding and without unwarranted moralistic constraints, could be a source of profound human happiness and connection. He believed that by acknowledging the naturalness of sexual desires and by educating individuals about responsible and consensual sexual behavior, society could alleviate much of the guilt, shame, and psychological distress associated with sexuality. Additionally, Russell was a proponent of women's rights and believed in gender equality, not just in the realm of sexuality but in all aspects of life. He critiqued the societal structures that relegated women to subservient roles and advocated for their emancipation and equal rights. However, his views, while revolutionary, also brought him a fair share of controversy. His appointments to academic positions were jeopardized, and he faced backlash from conservative quarters. Yet, his influence was undeniable. He paved the way for subsequent debates and reforms in the realm of sexuality and gender rights. In sum, Bertrand Russell's perspective on sexuality was a clarion call for rationality, understanding, and liberation from the chains of outdated norms. He envisioned a society where individuals could express their sexuality without fear, shame, or judgment, as long as it was consensual and respectful. 13. Hannah Arendt. Hannah Arendt, a prominent political theorist, was deeply concerned with the nature of power, authority, and the public realm. For Arendt, the public space was where individuals came together to engage in collective action and deliberation, a space for politics in its purest form. It was here that the unique quality of human plurality, the distinctiveness of individual voices, could be fully expressed and acknowledged. A key concept in Arendt's thought is the distinction between the public and private realms. The private realm, for Arendt, is the sphere of the household, of biological needs, and of intimate relationships, including sexuality. It is a space that provides shelter from the eyes of the public, a sanctuary where individuals can retreat and be themselves without the need for public appearance or persona. Conversely, the public realm is where individuals come forward and show themselves to others, where they engage in speech and action that has the potential to resonate in the world and become part of the shared human history. Arendt was wary of the intrusion of private matters, including sexuality, into the public realm. Not because she saw them as inferior or unworthy, but because their introduction into the public space could distort the very nature of politics. When the personal becomes political, the focus shifts from collective concerns, shared objectives, and the common good, to individual grievances, emotions, and personal histories. This can cloud the clarity of public debate and diminish the capacity for collective action. Moreover, Arendt believed that the politicization of the private realm, including sexuality, could have detrimental effects on individuals. When private matters are thrust into the public eye, they can be exposed to scrutiny, judgment, and potential manipulation. This not only invades individual privacy but also risks trivializing genuine concerns by turning them into mere spectacles. In the backdrop of totalitarian regimes, which sought to erase the boundary between the public and private realms and control every aspect of individual lives, Arendt's concerns were particularly poignant. She witnessed how such regimes manipulated private lives for political ends, turning individuals into mere cogs in the machinery of the state. In essence, Hannah Arendt's perspective on sexuality, and the private realm in general, underscores the importance of maintaining boundaries between the private and public spheres. She champions the value of both realms while cautioning against their conflation, urging for a clear demarcation to preserve the integrity and purpose of each. 14. Schopenhauer. Arthur Schopenhauer, with his bleak yet profound insights into the nature of human existence, placed the concept of the will at the center of his philosophy. For Schopenhauer, the universe and everything within it is a manifestation of this blind, insatiable will to live. It's an impersonal force, driving all actions and phenomena, from the simplest organic life forms to the complexities of human emotion and behavior. Sexual desire, in Schopenhauer's view, stands as the clearest and most compelling demonstration of this will to live. It is an irrepressible urge, one that can often seem illogical or disproportionate in its intensity, pushing individuals toward union with others. But why such fervor? Schopenhauer believed that behind the guise of individual passion lies nature's cold, calculating imperative, reproduction. Sexual attraction, then, is a kind of metaphysical ruse, a strategy deployed by the will to live to ensure the propagation of the species. The feelings of love, infatuation, and lust, powerful as they may seem to the individual experiencing them, are in essence nature's mechanisms to ensure that procreation occurs, irrespective of the personal wishes or intentions of the individuals involved. Yet, Schopenhauer's views on sexuality are tinged with a kind of existential pessimism. The realization that our deepest passions, the romantic and sexual attractions we feel, might be reducible to mere instruments of nature's will can be profoundly disillusioning. It poses a challenge to our sense of individual autonomy and the meaningfulness of personal relationships. Furthermore, for Schopenhauer, the will to live and its inherent desires are sources of suffering. The ceaseless striving and wanting that characterize existence, epitomized in the urgency of sexual desire, lead inevitably to dissatisfaction. Even when desires are fulfilled, the respite is temporary, and new desires soon emerge. In essence, Schopenhauer's perspective on sexuality offers a sobering reflection on the nature of human existence. While he acknowledges the power and intensity of sexual attraction, he situates it within a broader metaphysical framework where it becomes a testament to the impersonal, relentless force of the will, highlighting the inherent suffering and futility of human desires. 15. John Stuart Mill. John Stuart Mill, a luminary of the 19th century, is best known for his writings on liberty, utilitarianism, and political economy. But what's often overlooked is his pioneering stance on gender equality and his critiques on societal conventions surrounding sexuality. In his groundbreaking work The Subjection of Women, Mill advanced the radical idea, for his time, that women are fundamentally equal to men and that the prevailing social institutions, which subordinate women to men, were both unjust and inefficient. He argued against the notion that the differences in male and female roles were natural. Instead, he posited that they were the products of societal constructs, deeply embedded in history and culture. Central to Mill's advocacy for women's rights was his belief in individual autonomy and personal development. He saw society's restrictive views on sexuality and gender roles as chains that bound both genders, albeit in different ways. Women, obviously, were the more overtly oppressed, confined to roles of domesticity and denied the same educational, economic, and political opportunities as men. But men, too, were trapped, forced into molds of masculinity that demanded emotional restraint and dominance. For Mill, the freedom to explore and express one's sexuality was intrinsically linked with personal development. By forcing individuals into narrow roles based on their gender, society was not only perpetuating injustice but also squandering potential. Each individual, irrespective of gender, has unique capabilities, perspectives, and contributions. By limiting the roles and expressions of half the population, society was effectively impoverishing itself. Moreover, Mill argued that true companionship, based on equality and mutual respect, was impossible in a society where one gender held disproportionate power over the other. In relationships, this power dynamic distorted genuine affection and intimacy, replacing it with dominance on one side and dependence on the other. In championing women's rights and challenging societal norms on sexuality, John Stuart Mill was not merely promoting justice for women, but a richer, fuller life for all. He envisioned a society where individuals, free from the shackles of outdated conventions, could pursue their own paths, develop their capacities, and engage in relationships based on genuine understanding and mutual respect. 16. Gauri Ma. Gauri Ma, an esteemed figure in the Ramakrishna movement, was not just a monastic leader but also an embodiment of spiritual dedication in the tumultuous socio-religious landscape of India. In the tradition of many spiritual paths, particularly within the framework of Indian spirituality, the play of the senses and worldly attractions are often seen as potential obstacles on the path to ultimate realization or moksha. For Gauri Ma, sexuality represented one of the most powerful human instincts, a force that, if unchecked, could entangle an individual deeper into the web of Maya, illusion. In the context of spiritual pursuits, this force could divert one's attention from the inward journey, anchoring it instead to the transient and illusory nature of the physical world. Yet, Gauri Ma's advocacy for celibacy wasn't a mere rejection of sexuality, it was a conscious redirection of energy. In many spiritual traditions, the energy associated with sexuality, known as kundalini in certain yogic paths, is incredibly potent. When harnessed and redirected upwards through meditation and specific practices, it can catalyze profound spiritual experiences and awakenings. By championing celibacy, Gauri Ma aimed to help aspirants preserve and utilize this energy for spiritual growth. Celibacy, in this context, wasn't just about abstention but was a tool for transformation, turning the focus from the external to the internal, from the physical to the spiritual. It's also worth noting that Gauri Ma's teachings came during a period when India was grappling with both colonial rule and its socio-cultural implications. Her emphasis on spiritual practices and values can be seen as a way to reaffirm the depth and significance of Indian spiritual traditions in the face of external influences. In essence, for Gauri Ma, the path of celibacy was less about renouncing pleasure and more about embracing a higher, more profound form of bliss, one that transcends the ephemeral and touches the eternal. It's a testament to her teachings that she remains an enduring beacon for many on the spiritual path, guiding them beyond the distractions of the material world towards the eternal light of self-realization. 17. Ludwig Wittgenstein. Ludwig Wittgenstein, one of the most influential philosophers of the 20th century, shifted the philosophical landscape with his focus on language and its relation to the world. While his primary works, Tractatus Logico-Philosophicus and Philosophical Investigations, did not delve deeply into sexuality, the methods and perspectives he introduced have profound implications for understanding and discussing it. Central to Wittgenstein's later thought is the idea that the meaning of words isn't fixed or inherent but is derived from their use within the language games we play. These games are the practices, customs, and forms of life we are immersed in. For Wittgenstein, understanding a word means understanding the practices associated with it. Applying this lens to sexuality, one can see that terms like love, gender, sex, and relationship derive their meanings not from static definitions, but from the myriad ways in which they are used and understood in different contexts and cultures. Consequently, debates or confusions about sexual terms often stem from participants speaking different language games or having different forms of life in mind. Wittgenstein's approach encourages us to be attentive to the actual use of words in real-life contexts. Instead of seeking a singular, overarching definition of a term related to sexuality, we might instead examine how it operates within specific social practices and contexts. For example, how does the word love function in a romantic context compared to a platonic one? How have historical and cultural shifts altered the language games surrounding terms like marriage or gender? Furthermore, Wittgenstein's emphasis on the communal nature of language pushes us to recognize that discussions about sexuality are deeply embedded within social practices and communal life. Sexuality isn't just an individual experience, it's intertwined with societal norms, histories, and shared understandings. In conclusion, while Ludwig Wittgenstein might not have directly grappled with sexuality in his works, the philosophical tools he provided offer a unique and powerful way to dissect and understand the intricate tapestry of language and practices that surround human sexuality. By focusing on how we talk about sexuality, Wittgensteinian philosophy prompts us to be more reflective, nuanced, and attentive to the complexities of human experience. 18. Leo Tolstoy. Leo Tolstoy, the literary giant behind masterpieces such as War and Peace and Anna Karenina, underwent a profound spiritual transformation in his later years, which significantly influenced his views on sexuality. While his earlier works explored the intricate nuances of love and human relationships, his later writings, particularly after his spiritual awakening, took a more ascetic turn. Tolstoy's experience with sexuality was deeply personal. In his youth, he led a life of what he later considered to be moral recklessness, engaging in numerous affairs and living a hedonistic lifestyle. But as he aged and delved deeper into his spiritual and philosophical inquiries, his perspective underwent a stark transformation. Driven by his interpretation of Christian teachings and his quest for moral purity, Tolstoy began to view sexual desire as a hurdle on the path to spiritual enlightenment. He started to advocate for chastity, even within marriage, and believed that human relationships should be rooted in spiritual and platonic connections rather than physical ones. He posited that true Christian love, in its highest form, transcended the physical realm and was entirely non-sexual in nature. His evolving views on sexuality were not without controversy. Tolstoy's beliefs created tensions within his own family, especially with his wife, Sofia Andreevna, with whom he had a complex and often tumultuous relationship. While she bore him 13 children and supported his literary endeavors, she found it challenging to reconcile with his later life asceticism and the moral demands he placed on those around him. In works like the Kreutzer Sonata, Tolstoy's evolving views on sexuality are palpable. The novella, which presents a critique of lust and carnal passions, spurred heated debates and even faced censorship due to its radical views on marriage and sexuality. It's essential to understand that Tolstoy's perspective on sexuality was deeply intertwined with his broader quest for moral and spiritual clarity. He grappled with existential questions about the meaning of life, the nature of good and evil, and the path to true spiritual fulfillment. In this context, his stance on sexuality can be seen as an extension of his broader quest for purity, simplicity, and a life aligned with his understanding of Christ's teachings. 19. Ayn Rand. Ayn Rand, the influential novelist and philosopher behind objectivism, placed a unique emphasis on sexuality in her works, tying it inextricably to her broader philosophical tenets. Unlike many thinkers who saw sexuality primarily in terms of biological drives or social constructs, Rand viewed it as a deeply philosophical and moral act. For Rand, sexuality wasn't just a physical act or a fleeting emotion, it was a celebration of individual values, a mirror reflecting the deepest convictions of the individuals involved. Sexual attraction, in her view, was rooted in a person's admiration for the virtues and values embodied by another. This means that, in a Randian universe, the characters one finds attractive or forms relationships with are indicative of one's own philosophical and moral standings. This intertwining of sexuality and morality is vividly depicted in her novels. In The Fountainhead, the relationship between Howard Rourke and Dominique Franken isn't just a romantic subplot. It's a dynamic exploration of their individualism, their values, and their responses to a world that often rejects the ideals they uphold. Similarly, in Atlas Shrugged, the intricate relationships among Dagny Taggart, Hank Rearden, and John Galt are not mere romantic entanglements but powerful statements about their mutual recognition of virtue, strength, and purpose. Yet, Rand's portrayal of sexuality wasn't without its controversies. Critics have pointed out problematic elements in her depiction of romantic relationships, particularly concerning issues of power dynamics and consent. Some scenes in her novels, which might be read as embodying her philosophy of individual will and values, have been criticized for their aggressive and non-consensual undertones. Despite these controversies, what remains clear is that Rand elevated sexuality from mere physicality to a realm where values, virtues, and philosophy intertwine. For her, a sexual relationship was a profound affirmation of one's individualism, a testament to the character's personal values, and a clear reflection of their philosophical beliefs. In a world often inclined to separate the mind from the body, Ayn Rand firmly insisted that the two are intimately connected, especially in the realm of love and desire. 20. Judith Butler. Judith Butler, a formidable figure in contemporary philosophy and gender theory, fundamentally altered our understanding of gender and sexuality with her groundbreaking work. Her ideas, most notably outlined in Gender Trouble, 1990, moved away from the long-held belief that gender is biologically determined and fixed, instead suggesting that it is fluid, dynamic, and socially constructed. Central to Butler's theory is the concept of performativity. She argued that gender isn't something one inherently is, but rather something one does. In other words, gender is a performance, constructed through repeated behaviors, acts, and societal expectations. This performance, repeated over time, becomes so ingrained and habitual that it's perceived as natural or innate. This perspective radically challenges traditional binary notions of male and female, revealing them as cultural constructs rather than immutable truths. By positioning gender as a performance, Butler also highlighted how individuals can disrupt or queer these normative performances, intentionally challenging societal expectations and creating space for a broader spectrum of gender expressions. Butler's ideas also deeply impact our understanding of sexuality. If gender isn't biologically fixed, then neither are the roles and behaviors traditionally associated with particular genders, including those related to sexuality. This perspective dismantles many entrenched beliefs about what is natural or normal in the realm of sexual desire, attraction, and behavior. Furthermore, Butler's emphasis on the societal construction of gender and sexuality highlights the power dynamics at play. Societal norms and expectations around gender and sexuality don't just passively exist, they actively shape, regulate, and often restrict human behavior and self-expression. Recognizing them as performances opens the door to resistance, subversion, and change. In conclusion, Judith Butler's insights have been transformative, not just in academic circles but in wider societal understandings of gender and sexuality. By shedding light on the performative nature of these concepts, she has empowered countless individuals to question, challenge, and redefine their own gender performances, paving the way for a more inclusive and diverse understanding of human identity. Throughout history, philosophers have grappled with the complexities of sexuality, offering diverse insights that continue to shape our modern understanding. Whether viewed as a spiritual endeavor, a biological impulse, or a socio-political construct, the philosophy of sex remains a compelling and multifaceted topic.